Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Wone Pickups.
What was that all about?
Just having fun.
Hey, this is me, Todd Novak. Super happy that you are listening to our little show, the Guitar Knobs podcast. I don't know why I said that with any kind of inflection, but
Weren't you just down in Texas?
I was.
You
was
must
that
have
all
picked
about?
it up in just that short period of time.
I must have.
We're going to call them Tex from now on.
Whataburger.
Yeah, I guess so.
Whataburgers in Texas. Come on, man.
I don't know.
Did you get a Whataburger?
No, I didn't get a
Whataburger.
What's a Whataburger?
Whataburger.
Whataburger.
Yeah, no. I'm not eating meat, man.
Right.
I'm not going to go get a
It's all bun
either.
anyway, man.
What a veggie burger.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, whatever. So we are super.
Is there
happy.
someone else?
There is. There's somebody on the line who's waiting patiently.
Oh, yeah.
Literally waiting patiently. Who are you?
Well, hey, I'm Drew, and I'm Drew Walsh from Walsh Guitars.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We tried to get Drew on a couple weeks ago, and we're having some technical difficulties with the internets. So we're glad to have him back this time.
Yeah, glad to be back. I'm glad it's working.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
It's going to be great. We're excited to talk about this. For those of you who are not familiar with Walsh Guitars, you can check them out at walshguitars.com, provided you're not driving.
And that's W-A-L-S-H.
Yes. S-H. Walsh.
Welsh.
Yes.
Not Welsh.
Yes. Or Warsh or anything like
My
that.
wife's last name is Welsh, and so she always gets Walsh or Welsh,
Yeah,
C-H.
there's a lot of us out there.
Yep.
So check him out, walshguitars.com. He makes a ton of incredibly unique, beautiful, unapologetic guitars. I'm saying unapologetic because we're going to get into that, and you'll pick it up if you check him out. And we're just excited to have him on the show because I think it's kind of fun to see somebody do something that literally kind of has no rules at all, seemingly. But we're going to dig into that. Alrighty, we got some stuff for this week, dudes.
No.
Nope.
Nothing.
I know it's kind of dry. We're prepping for NAMM. By the time you hear this, we'll be back from NAMM. Tony,
Yes.
I like you, man. You're a good dude. I just want to say
thank
that.
you.
And I think I want to say also that we had great response from the Ask Tony stuff.
Really?
Yes, you got a lot of good PR there.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for everyone for
Yeah, and he looks just like the picture I made for him. So.
Exactly. My brain is showing.
Yes. I thought, should I put a pair of glasses on a bottle of beer, or should I?
Well, either works.
It should have been a bottle of beer pouring over a brain.
Yes, there you go. Yes. What's
nice.
going on in your music world this week, bud?
Well, last time we got together, I think we talked a little bit about a Guild S100C, the acorn and oak leaf carved version of the S100,
Yes,
kind
sir.
of their take on a Gibson SG. So I picked up a 1973 neck and body husk, and finally got it all back together. It's just a cool guitar. I remember seeing these things, and I've owned other S100s over the years, but I've always wanted the one that is carved. So they actually carved in oak leaves and acorns. I wonder why they didn't use oak on the body. That would have been even one better.
Harder to carve.
Acorns and shiny new bicorns. I don't know, whatever.
Wow, these are a few of my favorite things.
Yep.
But anyhow, I brought it in today, and we're just kind of checking it out a little bit. Did some postings on Instagram.
It's super cool, except for all the carving.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to fill that in with
False. It's awesome.
Do that.
Bondo. Fill it in with Bondo.
I played it right before we started it. The action is amazing. I love the way that thing.
Yeah,
plays.
I mean,
great feeling neck.
I tell you,
Amazing.
every S100 that I've owned, I've always felt was better than any SG. That I've owned.
I would agree that on that. I've played those and I agree. I also like the clear pickguard. Pretty cool.
That was, and I actually had to remake that because obviously it wasn't on there.
Right. So if you need clear pickguards remade for whatever reason,
I'm the guy. I'm the guy that
Okay.
I can do
Cool.
that for you.
Excellent.
So that was my
Is
that was
the
my
original
fun
case.
No, that is not the original case, but it's kind of a cool case.
over there.
It is. Yeah, I like that case.
Yes.
It's kind of like a violin case. It looks like a big violin.
Yeah, it's like it looks like it's like an old Vox
Or a
case.
cello on a diet.
Violin for Andre the Giant.
Yes,
Yes.
indeed. So that's what I got.
Excellent. Drew, let's get you in here quick. What's going on in the music world?
Well, speaking of SGs, I just bought a 1969 SG Standard with a Maestro. It's all original.
Nice.
Wow.
So hopefully it's on par of a S100, apparently. I've never played one, but
Well, mine is 4 years newer, so.
well, as you guys are like bashing the SG, I'm like, crap, I hope mine's good.
don't get me wrong.
Bashing.
I still love I love an
no.
SG, especially an old one. But I mean, it's just apples to apples. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared is the resident SG lover.
1969, so it does not have the volute, and it doesn't have the made. Does it have the Made in USA stamp on yours?
So this one actually does have a volute. So I don't know if this was kind of like a transitional period, but I know that volutes are typically 70.
Yeah.
But the date according to the serial number is 69.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
Those serial
Maybe
numbers-
parts of it.
Those serial numbers are wonky back then.
I mean, and not to go back to mine, but according to all of the guild catalogs and things, this model didn't come out till 74. Yet it has a 73 serial number.
Yeah,
So
that's what
I
they
think
made
it's
it.
almost every serial number dating is almost grain of salt, I guess.
I think I saw a picture of it on your Instagram or on your website.
Yep.
Is that the one?
Yeah. So like the walnut colored one.
Very clean looking. It looks really cool.
Yeah, super clean. It actually has had a neck reset, which
Well, that's
I mean,
good, actually.
Anyone, and yeah, exactly. Well, and anyone who's been around these vintage SGs knows that like a headstock break,
Headstock
or a neck reset.
body neck,
Yeah,
body
it's like
joint
it's
break.
going to happen. Exactly.
Or
So-
the corner where the jack plugs in breaks off.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So what possessed you to buy something so prone to it's like you bought Samuel Jackson and Unbroken, only it's a guitar.
Well, so I actually have a fairly large vintage guitar collection. Most of my guitars are
You live where
like
exactly?
With your address and what is the combination to your security system?
right.
Count.
So yeah, I mean, most of my guitars are like these oddball, like they're not really popular. Most people don't even know about them kind of guitars. So like
For
one of my
instance?
favorite guitars. Yeah. So one of my favorite guitars is made by a brand called Kappa. And so Kappas were made in like the mid to late 60s in Maryland.
Yep.
And they made the bodies in Maryland, but the necks, the pickups, and the hardware were all sourced from Hofner. So they have these killer staple pickups from Hofner, a really like ballsy kind of sound.
Sweet.
Nice.
But everything else was made here in the States, and they just play amazingly well. You can get them for under $500, and these things are like 50 years old, and they play great. It's like a good Hofner, but like with a little bit more attitude.
What model is that one that you have?
I actually own two of them.
Oh.
Excuse me. And both of them are 1967. One is the Cobra.
Yep.
It's a dual pickup, staple pickups, and the other one is a Continental. And the Continental is kind of looks like a Mustang almost, except the body is only an inch thick. I mean, this thing is like paper thin.
We are talking about guitars and not cars, everybody. Just
Yes.
so we're clear.
Yes.
I have a Continental 12 from about the same time frame.
Suicide door.
Yes, it did. And as a practical matter. Yeah, no, those are cool guitars. And I also heard somewhere along the way that the guy that I forget his name now that owned the company in Baltimore sourced some of the parts and things that were like Fender closeouts and overstocks and stuff like that. But yeah, those staple pickups are super cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I love them. They're actually one of my favorite pickups out there, for sure. So I own that. I own some vintage Ks.
You're in good company, man, because I know Tony loves that stuff. as does Jared. And
Oh, yeah.
and I don't own any of those things, but I'm always the one running up at the show going, there's a killer. And Tony just shakes his head. He's like, oh, grasshopper.
When you could grasp the pebble.
Yeah, I just fixed a vintage K pickup today, as a matter of fact, one of those speed bump pickups.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, so I also have a ton of Tyscos and a lot of guitars that were manufactured by Tysco, but under a different name.
Like yours.
We're
And if
beginning to
you-
see how the present has been colored.
Yes,
your guitar.
exactly. So that's where a ton of my inspiration comes from. The funky Tysco, Kingston. Gosh, there's a billion brands that are under the Tysco name. So
Do you have a copy of that? There's a Japanese guitar book from the 60s.
no,
I picked it up
I know what
about
you're
a year
talking
ago.
about.
It is
Yeah.
really, I mean, it's a really valuable source for things. A lot of details and lots of information on each of the companies, the big companies.
Especially Japanese guitars, I would
Well,
imagine.
Yes, predominantly, almost entirely, if you will.
I would imagine some
Yeah,
of those
actually-
builders are still alive.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe. You know, that book was actually mentioned in, I think it was 2 magazines ago in Premier Guitar. And I'd heard about it, but I'd never found the name of the magazine or the book until I read that.
Yeah, I think it's
That
just called, isn't it
vintage
just
guitar
called
magazine. Yeah.
Japanese Guitars of the 60s or something? Or I forget what
Yeah,
it is.
something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good reference
So-
book.
Yeah.
Lots of cool
Nice.
things that I hadn't seen before.
That would be an awesome guest. Just somebody who was involved in
Well, the guy that
those-
wrote the book has like
not
this
that
massive.
guy. I mean, the people who actually designed anybody from
Well,
that
yeah.
sort of,
But the guy that wrote the book
or that guy. Get
actually
him.
has an incredible collection of
Hey,
Japanese
if
instruments.
you're the one who wrote that book and you're listening, call send us an email.
Call us right now.
Cool, nice. All right, Jared, what do you got going on?
Yeah, so a continuation from the Silvertone.
Shocker. Sorry.
From the Silvertone guitar. The discrepancy that was on this guitar was these funny bushings. Whoever had this guitar put in these. I don't know how the heck to explain them, but they were not designed to be bushings for tuners. And I was going to send this up to a friend of mine that does finish work and all this kind of thing. But instead, I thought, well, let's just take it apart and, let's see if we can yank these out of here, because these things are glued down to the headstock, and I thought it was ruined and terrible thoughts about that. So we took the strings off and I popped it all. I popped one of those bushings out and it was like Elmer's glue, and it wasn't even adhered to the finish at all. So it was a clean break right off the headstock. Like there was no
They
sign.
just lifted right off.
It lifted right off. There was no sign of the glue ever being there. You could just scratch it off with your fingernail.
Wow, that's cool.
It was amazing.
Those are the kind of repairs I like.
I know. So it's that I don't remember the model number. What was that?
Oh gosh,
It was a
1462 or something.
Yeah,
like
14.
That.
Yeah, it was the red, the shark fin
Yeah,
looking one with the tremolo.
It's a Tysco.
Yeah, they had these pickups are single coil, but they have these square magnets coming out, and we actually put some good strings on it after we actually put some real bushings on this thing, which was nothing. And these pickups, I cannot believe how good they sound. I had no idea they were going to sound as good as they do. Not quite as thick and loud as a P90, but maybe just a little under that. Or I'm not exactly sure, but they sound really great. I was thinking, I wonder if I could modify this and make it sound really, mean or, because I like to mess around with that kind of stuff. But after I played it, I'm not touching this thing. This thing is awesome, just the way it's built.
For the record, it's Tasco, by the way.
Okay.
Like Seiko.
Tasco.
Tasco.
Yeah. Okay.
So that guitar is now in my possession as a done, finished, good playing
Good.
cool guitar,
Nice.
and I might sell it on Sunday at the guitar show.
That's exactly what I said. Wait, what? Hey, you're for sure going to get a lot of people looking at that thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
There's 3 of those on a website, and they're asking around $1,100 to $1,200.
Jeez.
And maybe I'll get half that, and I'll be happy.
What?
I remember when I was
that's not how that works.
when I was young, I could get those for under $100 at a pawn shop.
Well, you can ask anything you want for a guitar. It doesn't mean you're going to
You can get a good look at a anyways.
T-bone steak, right?
Okay. Somebody ask me.
Todd, what's going on in your world?
As you mentioned, Tony, I was down in Texas and I was away from my guitars for about a week. And as soon as I walked into my father-in-law's house, he promptly brought out his Spanish guitar, which is, it's not a super nice one. It's just it's just a one.
It's a guitar. It has strings.
Yeah, it's guitar and it has strings.
Up to 6.
But and he poo-poos it constantly. He's like, oh, it's not worth anything and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I love the tone that comes out of the thing. I love playing that guitar. The fingerboard is honestly as big as a Subway sandwich. I mean,
I have one of those.
it is wide
And the
However,
fretboard is flat.
but those it's just the timbre of the wood and the nylon the nylon strings, which I don't play that often. I don't have one of those. It's so forgiving, and I really enjoyed playing that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I got to sit there and kind of anything you play on it just kind of sounds
Like Jethro Tull.
good. Yeah.
They are other known as classical
Willie.
guitars.
That's right.
Let's go with Willie.
Classical guitar.
Yeah, they are, but yeah. Anyways, a lot of Spanish dudes play in Spain
Yeah.
and stuff for things.
Right.
Anyways,
Excellent.
and immediately, I did the.
Did you put your hat out so you can get tip money?
No, but I did the. 1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor. Okay, Drew, give it to us. 4 on the floor.
All right. Well, my first one's probably a bit predictable for a lot of people, but about 7 years ago, I bought a silver Klon, and I owned that Klon for maybe about 5 years. By far, I know there's a lot of, I don't know, snake oil, about that pedal, but it is by far the best overdrive I have owned. But that said, I also did sell it for $2,000.
What?
Well, there you go.
So I don't have it anymore. But I've in the meantime, I've been using a Fox Pedal Kingdom.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty much a Klon. He's got a couple little, diode clipping switches and stuff, and so it's pretty close. It's close enough that I feel comfortable with having $2,000 in my pocket. So
nice.
And I usually run that pedal fairly clean, but it's just like on the edge of breakup. And then coupling that with an amp on the verge of breakup, it's great. It's like the perfect pedal for me.
Awesome. So did you buy that? Is that something you were like, you've been looking for a long time, or like, was that just a...
No. So I actually bought this the very last year, that the guy was making them. So if you remember, like he was making these pedals and there's a long wait list. I waited for almost 8 months to get my pedal from him. And then by the time I got the pedal, he actually closed down shop for, I don't even know, maybe it's like 3-4 years, something like that.
Holy smokes.
And then he came back with the Klon KTR.
Right.
So he actually shut down operations completely for a while. And then came back with the Klon KTR. He's back
in action, like full force right now.
Yeah. He's got like a boost pedal and some other stuff. He's an interesting guy.
I've got an invitation out to him. So if anybody knows him personally, poke him with the stick. gently. I don't know. That was weird.
And if he doesn't respond, then really tear into him.
All right, what do you got for number 2?
So number 2, well, there's actually 2 pedals, and it's only because they're kind of the same pedal. Strymon Timeline, but before I bought a Strymon Timeline, I actually owned the Damage Control Timeline. So I don't know if you guys remember the company Damage Control, but that was Strymon before they were Strymon.
Oh, okay.
I did not know that.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so look it up if you ever have time, but the Damage Control brand, they would put tubes in their pedals and they would light up like these crazy colors. Mm-hmm. And the tubes were just there for looks. Like, I'm pretty sure they didn't do anything, but they looked awesome. And so I had the Damage Control Timeline. That was like the first gen Timeline. And I controlled it with a Rocktron MIDI mate. So I had I think I had 12 presets.
Jeez.
On the Rocktron MIDI mate. And it was great. Like I'm a huge, kind of like ambiance kind of guy. So I'm usually the person just kind of setting kind of background tones and stuff.
Cool.
So the Timeline now, I use that as well. I've kind of stripped down my stuff. It's not as crazy as it once was. So my Timeline, I'm not using any kind of MIDI controller. I have a favorite switch just to get a little bit more out of it. But otherwise, I'm just using a standard Timeline now.
So what was the genesis behind getting the Timeline for I guess minimal use?
So why go from super complicated to minimal?
Well, no. So if you have the Timeline, but you're saying you only use that one setting for super light ambiance, if I'm hearing you correctly, what was is that something that you had that you thought you were going to get really deep into with all the settings and didn't, or that seems,
I see what you're saying. Well,
that's that's a pretty heavy duty pedal for that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, so when I owned the Damage Control Timeline, I was using it super extensively. And that's why I had all those presets and
right.
And that was back when I also owned the Klon. My rig was ridiculous. Brady Cases actually built me a custom pedal board. It was like a pedal board in a case kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the case was 6 feet long. So it was just, it was ridiculous. It was way out of hand. I know. So I ended up selling
and it doubles as a cot.
Yeah. I sold 3/4 of that rig and I simplified things down tremendously. And so now I'm just using the Timeline. Of course I got a couple presets and then I have a favorite switch. So I'm still using it heavily, but not to the extent I was using it.
Cool.
So
number 3.
Number 3 is the Strymon Big Sky. And I have a studio board because I have a nice studio that I keep things just set up ready to use. And then I have a live board. And the Big Sky is on the studio board, but on my live board, I have a Hall of Fame. Again, it's simpler live. It's just really straightforward and easy to use. But in the studio, I use the Big Sky and kind of like the Timeline. It's just, man, the capabilities of that pedal is ridiculous. It's just massive space, shimmer, the spring. I mean, whatever you want, it can really do it. Cover a lot of grounds.
Well, I mean, look, they are what they are, and they've gotten their reputation for good reason. So nobody can really argue with that.
I'm going to argue with it. I would like to argue that point.
Yeah. But it's, then you got the Hall of Fame, which has, that's a mainstay too.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that is really good equipment.
What's number 4?
Number 4 would definitely be the Sonic Research Turbo Tuner. And I know that's not necessarily an effect, but I use my turbo tuner for everything. Whether it's servicing guitars on the fly, It's just like one of the best, most accurate tuners out there. And once you kind of get past the strobe, like once you really figure out the strobe, like, man, it is just the best workhorse.
So I'm not familiar with it. Is it a strobo tuner or is it like a faux strobo? Faux strobo.
Whoa.
It's not a true strobe, like as in like the Peterson
Right.
kind of style, but it's a strobe, like faux strobe kind of like tuner, you know.
Okay.
It functions similarly, but it is, to my knowledge, it's the most accurate like pedal version of a tuner that you can buy. You know, obviously Peterson has like crazy high-end rack units and stuff, and they're phenomenal, but like for an active musician who's like traveling and has like little and large gigs, the turbo tuner is by far the best I've used.
And then even in a live situation, you think that works better than dummy lights?
For me, it does. Yeah. I mean, for me, it does. Like I have some friends who have, what is it? Like the Korg tuner.
Yeah. DTR.
And, you know, you can like, well, you know, you can strum like all 6 of your strings at the same time.
Like a poly.
Oh, like a polytune. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a polytune. Like I literally don't know anyone who uses that. So, I mean, I think that's a cool feature, but most people are going to be tuning their strings one at a time.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have the Polytune
Yeah.
Mini, and what's really useful for that, like when you're at home and you do that, you're like, I mean, I guess I could do that, or I could just tune them one at a time. But if you're on stage and you don't want to go bring, 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 you know, it's like
everybody to
you
hear.
just hit them,
Even
and
if
you go
that's
like,
part of the song.
boom, my D's out. I gotta just give it a quick tweak. So I understand the idea of doing that. It can be a little confusing sometimes.
Do you find? I mean, is it accurate enough on the polytune?
Well, if it's out of tune enough, it's
obvious.
And you can see it from. I mean, if I have it on my board and I'm standing, you know, a couple feet away, I can see it's showing, you know, red where everything else is green, and
Right.
you could use it, or you know, or just mute it and tune it.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of the Korg ones, and they usually have a good sized display. And I mean, for me, that works.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm at my shop, I've got the Peterson thing on my phone that is fairly accurate, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna look like a doofus if you're standing on stage with your iPhone trying to tune
I
it.
think
or a snark. Just for the record.
Oh,
people.
yes.
Come on.
No clip-ons.
Anyways, so is that, what's the footprint of that pedal? Is it like a mini? Is it an oversized? Is it regular?
The strobe, are you talking about
Yours.
the one that I just talked about?
Yes.
Yeah. It's the size of a Boss.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So that's
Cool.
Yeah.
very
Yeah. So it's a fairly small footprint. And what I like about it is, you know, most of the tuners out there, they're tuning to 0.05 of a cent.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty standard. But this one actually tunes to 0.02 of a cent, which again, you're not going to find that accuracy, like short of like going to a rack unit.
Totally.
Oh,
So
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hey man, that's cool. I'm glad you found one that you like.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
the tuner search is real. You know,
Yeah,
I think
it is.
that is one that is, I think most people just kind of is like, oh, it's a tuner. It's like, yeah, but we all know that we've gone through like 3 or 4 of them to find the one that we really like. So,
a tuner salad, if you will.
yeah, a tuner salad. Hey, cool, man. Well, thank you for sharing your 4 on the floor with us. I think we'd like to get into some guitar talk here. And the good thing is we happen to have a guest who knows a lot about guitars and makes a lot of guitars.
Sweet.
Yes, sir. Most notably, I will say, just, you know, to kind of set the tone for this, most guitar builders tend to say, I'm going to kind of build this kind of a thing, you know, and generally stay within 5 degrees of separation of that, you know, that theme guitar. I think you skipped that day. or that they handed out the instructions, which is fun. It's kind of hard to nail down your thing. So we'll get all deep into that, but I would love for you to kind of share, as we often ask, like, from whence you came in your growing up in guitar. How did you land here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started playing guitar back in middle school, or actually, no, I'm sorry, 6th grade. And, it's the kind of typical, like, started out on acoustic. My parents bought me a guitar, made me promise that if they bought me a guitar, I would not join a band. and sure enough, like, actually, when I got into middle school, like, my friends and I, like, we started a ska band because that was cool back then.
Nice.
I bet most people won't even remember ska, but
I do.
Anyways, like, so yeah.
Me,
so
I love the specials. Holy moly. I can still rock
real
that.
Real
way.
Big Fish.
Oh, man. Hey, Real Big Fish practiced in the room right next to us for about a year. Drove me nuts.
Oh man.
Just, because it's just horns constantly. We're like, shut
the horns
up.
are super annoying. It's true.
Well, when you're trying to, get your stuff straight and you're in one of those lockouts and, they're like, there's another band. It's 6 inches away. This will work out great.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead with your story there, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I grew up playing guitar, transitioned to electric guitar really early on. And so when I got into school, studied music, got out of school, got married, and very early on into our marriage, like my wife's brother, he had this like beater Squire, just like a piece of crap thing. But like it really, I'd always played them, but I'd never really taken the time to get to know my instrument well. And I feel like that's true of a lot of guitarists. And if they really took the time to get to know their instrument well, they would not only be a better player, but they would know how to manipulate their instrument better.
Agreed.
And so I was aware of my own limitations as a guitarist. I still am. There's a lot of them, but like I felt like if I could take apart this guitar and understand how it works, put it together, maybe like with better parts, then I would come to like one step closer to being a better guitarist. And so it kind of started there. And that was back in like 2007, 2008. I took apart that guitar, put it back together. What was that guitar
that you had?
That was just like a Squire Strat.
Cool.
So
okay, gotcha.
Nothing crazy, but I mean, compared to a Tele, Strats are actually much more complicated.
Definitely, yeah.
Especially when you take it apart, you're like, wait a minute.
where did that spring go?
Yeah.
I've been tuning it for an hour.
Yeah. So I ended up like swapping out the pickups and electronics, and until that point, like I had never even soldered in my life. Mm-hmm. So this was like a very new, stretching experience. So ended up putting it back together, and it surprisingly played way better. What I didn't know though at the time is that this was actually a like mid 80s Squire Strat. And I didn't know at the time that
was it Squire Japan.
This was a Japanese Strat. And so I was like, I later on find out, I'm like, this was actually a fairly nice guitar.
Yeah. Did it have a 3-bolt neck or a 4-bolt neck?
It was a 4-bolt. Okay, it was actually, what I did know is this was like one of those reissue. They're trying to like do like a 50s reissue Strat kind of thing. Right. And so this was actually a really nice guitar that I was operating on, and I probably totally butchered. But it was a good experience. I came out of that like pretty excited about like, well, I feel like I know this, what would be the next step. And so like most people, like I started modifying my guitars, started modifying my friends' guitars. That transitioned into like grabbing a kit, of some sort, like, so maybe like getting a body from over here and then grabbing a neck from Warmouth or USA Custom or something like that, And so that was all back in 2007, 2008. And then around 2009, 2010, I started making my own bodies. I was still, in 2009, I was still getting my necks from guys like USA Custom or something like that.
How did you get started on the bodies? I mean, that's kind of you know, not everybody can just run out in their garage and start making some serious woodworking.
You got to have big machinery.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. So,
Boys,
you have to have some like decent machinery at least, you know.
Sure.
And the size of the machinery, you know, you can get a lot of benchtop stuff just to get through the basics. But benchtop stuff will only get you so far.
So you started out with like, did you have woodworking knowledge? Were you exposed to that before this? Or
No.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was part of the learning curve for me was my dad, like if something broke in our house, he was the kind of dad who was calling up like a handyman to come fix it. So like I didn't know how to even like a power drill, like how do I operate this thing? You know, like, I mean, like it was literally from like ground zero, trying to figure things out. And so like, I just slowly started, I mean, this was back, 2009, YouTube was like gaining a lot of traction.
It had just broke in 2008, broke.
Yeah.
Pretty
So like, there's like training videos and stuff on YouTube and like totally just dove right into that.
That's awesome.
And so I made lists of the tools that I needed to accumulate, and whether it was like selling my own gear or using the money from my time of modifying people's guitars or kits and making money off of those, I just ended up pouring all the money back in the business. And at that point, it wasn't business. It was really just like, man, this is a hobby. It's sustaining itself, and it was fun.
What were you doing before that for business, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. Well, so I oversee the music. At that time, I was overseeing the music program in a church. Mm-hmm. And so that was my full-time job.
Cool.
And so this was like hobby, coming home and like my wife would be reading a book and I'm like, all right, I'm going out to the shop. I'll see you in a few hours. So
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Did you ever, do you ever get into one of those, I do this myself. It's just like time just stops. And, you start working on like, I kind of go into a trance when I'm soldering sometimes. It's just like, I look up and it's 4 hours later.
And I'm burning my finger.
Yeah. That may be the fumes.
Well, that could be. Yeah. A little
You got to get one of those.
Little rosin car.
You got to get those little suction fans that suck away the solder thing.
Where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
Anyways, don't let these.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question though, like my shop now, like it's like being in Vegas. There are no windows. And so there is no sense of time in my shop.
Wow.
Do you have big machines and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Slot machines.
Oh, those kind of
card tables,
planers, and
he builds guitars. He's got all that
the other
stuff.
things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Send us a picture.
I don't know where was I? I can't even remember.
Well, we were.
I'll do that.
We threw you a curveball.
Yeah.
So you start out. What was the first body shape you made with the guitars?
Yeah, first body shape was a Telly because I figured by that time I knew that a Telly was the simplest, most straightforward guitar to build.
Mm-hmm.
Yet a perfect example of brilliance in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
They still make them today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jared.
I'm just saying.
Really? You
Good
can
point.
still get those?
Holy moly.
I think so.
Okay, go ahead.
So so I started with a Telly, and I don't even remember where I got them, but I found some templates offline, and I bought a cheap bandsaw. I only had a handheld router, and I basically clamped the wood to a table and just routed it like above the guitar.
That's living dangerously.
Yeah.
Especially with the big bit.
looking back, it was not a wise choice. But
and how many fingers do you have right now?
Right.
I have all my fingers, but they are very scarred up. So there's that. So I have learned the value of having super glue on hand, because super glue, like on wounds, just like closes them up real fast.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect.
Well,
Keep
it was originally developed for that very purpose.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, super glue. That was originally developed for
I thought it was all toxic
for wartime.
I use that new skin stuff, and I thought, wow, okay, which is basically the same thing.
Just use super glue.
I like the new skin. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways,
I just bought all the super glue in the dollar store yesterday. It was like
What?
It was like 14. Well, yeah, I use it all the time as well. If you're a shop guy, you got to have a bunch of super glue.
Yeah. Yeah, I buy, there's like 10 packs at Harbor Freight for like $3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Like it's cheaper all the time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, on the Super Glue podcast.
So, yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor of super glue?
So, you built that one. I'm sure you built it for yourself. At what point did this start to escalate?
You know, the funny thing is, so I had built a couple guitars for friends, or at this point I was living in Los Angeles. And so I built a couple guitars for some local people, more just like I had modified their guitar, and they're like, well, hey, like I heard you're kind of assembling guitars or building guitars now. Could you make me something? So I made a couple of guitars for some local people. And this was this was definitely my first year into building guitars. And I decided just on a whim to build a white, Olympic white telly with a bird's eye neck and a bird's eye fretboard. I posted it on Craigslist, and the guy who came by and bought it was Mason Stoops.
What?
And at that point, like Mason, I kid you not, Mason was probably like 17.
He's so
18
good.
years old. He is phenomenal.
For those who aren't familiar with Mason Stoops, first of all, I'm a fan. He just has a thing. He has
a Walsh guitar.
I'll tell you that. Telly, and I haven't seen the headstock on that thing. Is his signature telly yours?
So the telly that he has is still the same one that I built way back then.
So cool.
Yeah. But you should know though, like he has modified the crap out of that thing. Like all the basic bones are there. So it's the same body, same neck, same bridge. And what he has modified though is the pickups have changed throughout the years. At one point he had so when I put the pickups in, I believe they were Lindy Fralins. But he quickly modified them to a set of Don Mayer pickups. And then he created a new pickguard that kind of went between the bridge and the control plate, and a little route there. And he put an active GHS, or is it GF? Guitar Fetish. GFS.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. So he put an active like Guitar Fetish preamp in there. And it was like a sonic expander, almost like a clean boost almost. And of course, like he had swapped out the electronics as well for like some vintage caps and stuff. So he ended up getting rid of that. Now he's got everyone asks this on Instagram, like every time he posts that guitar, but it's a vintage Gaiatone, gold foil, gold top, pickup in the neck position. Yeah. It's a funky thing. And, Curtis Novak,
Curtis, I was going to say, is making those, isn't he?
Yeah.
He makes phenomenal, like, I've actually had to purchase several of those pickups since I've made Mason's guitar, because his guitar has gotten a lot of attention. And I've found vintage ones, and I've also used Curtis Novak's. And quite honestly, Curtis's stuff is on par, if not better than the originals, simply because it's just more reliable. It's better construction. The parts are new. I mean, it's just going to last longer. So his stuff's phenomenal. But anyway, so that's the neck pickup. And if I'm not mistaken, the bridge pickup is actually a vintage Telly pickup. So
I just love the way it's
of
all
course,
beat to heck.
Oh man, yeah, and he has he's put. Everyone asks about the black stripe, like if I did that. I didn't do that. What that actually is it's just electrical tape.
That's great. I love it.
So,
anyways, on the Mason Stoops podcast,
yeah, right, yeah. So, but Mason's like you said, he's a phenomenal player. He transitions like between styles like no one else that I personally know.
Yeah.
So, and he really was the one who kind of, because him buying that guitar, it really did kind of launch me into something bigger. Because he made my guitars seen on a much more public level. And so I started with Tellys. You know, I did a couple Strats. But quite honestly, I'm not a huge Strat fan.
Yeah, there you go.
And you kind of said it earlier, but like I do what inspires me, and that's really all that I stick to.
So
if
now
it doesn't
we know
inspire
two
me
people in the world that don't like Stratocasters. There's two now. Sorry to interrupt, but I had to point that out.
Yeah, as a guitar collector, I still own a Strat. It's just it doesn't get as much use as the other ones.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started with a Telly. I did some Strats, did some like Les Paul style guitars, some Les Paul Junior style guitars. I still really enjoy a Les Paul and Les Paul Juniors, although I don't really do them very often.
Is it the set?
It was probably
thing?
around
the set neck. Does that kind of deter you from wanting to do those?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I have an original design that's a set neck, so it's not like set neck is off-putting to me. What I do like though about bolt-on necks is just things are so much simpler to service. And like there are times where, I mean, anyone who's owns like old Gibsons knows that like so many times those necks need to be reset because maybe like the pitch has changed of the neck slightly, you know, and things like just have to get reset over time. And so I just love a bolt-on necks that if the neck goes bad, you get a new neck, or if things change, like me, you put in a shim. Yeah. And there are great quality shims out there now that won't like destroy the end of your neck. So, I mean, I just find the serviceability in life of a bolt-on guitar far exceeds set necks.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just, again, it's a personal preference. I personally also really like the snappiness of a 25.5-inch bolt-on neck kind of guitar. It just has an immediacy to the sound that I really enjoy.
I can get behind that.
So
what are your feelings on regular neck screws versus inserts with bolts, with machine bolts?
Yeah, so I've used both. Currently, all I use is I use neck inserts. I use brass neck inserts with stainless steel machine screws.
Yeah.
So that's all I use now, just because as far as the pressure and coupling of the neck to the body, I can get way more pounds per square inch.
Yeah, that's without a doubt.
You know, yeah. And again, it comes back to serviceability. Like I want just not a good guitar immediately for people, but I want a guitar that's going to last a lifetime. And again, like the more that you see vintage guitars come and go, the more you see stripped out necks that you have to drill out the hole, you know, plug it, re-drill. And anytime you do that, there's always kind of like this, whether it's true or not, but like for the original owner, that person's like shivering, you know, they're just like, oh God, like, please, like, let this not like destroy my guitar. And it's not a huge deal, but just for the sake of peace of mind, like I feel a lot better about it.
That's cool. I totally understand that. When we were talking with Novo, That was one of the things that they were looking to, improve upon, and that now they have their, I don't know if it's patented, but their single bolt, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Cool. So, and now you started making a bunch of guitars just based on like the known. It sounded like you kind of went through like, all right, well, here's the standards, here's the hits. If anybody is looking at your site or on your Instagram, that's not what they're going to see for the most part.
Yeah.
So where did that take a left turn?
Yeah. So like you said, I was doing pretty much classic designs. And then the very first departure came because I played a vintage Epiphone Crestwood Custom. And that guitar just ruined me. And at that point, I knew enough about building guitars that I saw that guitar, and obviously I couldn't take it apart because it's a set neck, but like I knew I wanted to build a guitar like that. Mm-hmm. And that's not a very traditional guitar. I mean, like, unless you really know those kind of classic guitars, and the Epiphones really go under the radar. They're so good, such good guitars. But like that guitar for me was the first one that really inspired me, that was outside of the traditionally classic guitars. And so that's actually where my Bethel model came from. It's not the same shape, but when you look at it, it's very obvious that it borrows a lot of aesthetic design from the Crestwood Custom or Olympic, or a Coronet, one of those. And so I have a set neck version of that. And the set neck version has a German carve on the top. It's also semi-hollow in design. And then I have a bolt-on neck version. And then the bolt-on neck version, they're both 25.5-inch scale, which is not like the original. And then the bolt-on version can be solid body or semi-hollow, or, the options are endless. But the set neck version also has the oval inlays, just like the Crestwood Custom. The Crestwood Custom, the oval inlays actually stop at the 12th or 15th fret, which I thought was really frustrating, because if I'm playing above that, it's like, I want to know where I'm at. Like,
got no business being up there. This is an Epiphone.
My inlays stop on 7.
Yeah. I was actually going to have a guitar made that stopped at 7. Fretless from 7 up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I continued those oval inlays like all the way up to the 20th or 21st fret. So, but yeah, so that was kind of my first departure. And then from there, actually, the next guitar I worked on was because Mason Stoops asked me to recreate his favorite guitar. But he told me, he's like, if you work on this guitar, I don't want it to be just like the original. You got to do something that makes it unique. And so that's how I came up with the Hesed. And the Hesed, like, there's some people who have said it looks like what did they say? Like a Schecter or something like that. And that's not where the design inspiration comes from. It actually comes from a Tisco. Is that what we're saying now? Tisco, not Tisco?
Well,
Tasco, as in
like
Seiko.
Tasco.
Like
all right, Tasco. Yes, Tasco. So it actually comes from a Tasco Spectrum 5. And so the Spectrum 5 is a super rare bird. It's like, to my knowledge, there's only several thousand of them made. But if there could have been like a Tasco like custom shop, this would have been their premier guitar coming out. In the original guitar, it had 6 mini pickups with a rocker switch, for every pickup. So you would get 36 pickup combinations.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, totally wild. And what was really interesting about the bridge too is that the bridge was like, it was kind of like a floating bridge. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Stutzbar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the vibrato system called Stutzbar, but it actually borrows some of their design elements from this Teisco bridge. And when you actually push forward on the vibrato, the bridge shifts up. And so the bridge literally moves forward or moves back.
Wow.
With the strings themselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
that.
like,
the early Gibson, early 60s SGs, like your 60, 61, 62, if you look under that bridge, an ABR1, that's what they were called, you will see how the bottom of it was actually machined to be curved so that, you know, when you use that tremolo, the bridge actually tilts forward and back with the strings. So the strings don't get all cattywampus.
Ooh, cattywampus.
Indeed.
yeah.
Well, that's
And
I mean,
for
that,
And so,
For those who just said, wait, it's got 6 pickups, they're not 6 in line like some bonkers Stratocaster joke thing that you see on the internet. These are sort of like the GNL style, except they're actually truly separated.
well, they're electric 12.
Yes.
There's three poles per coil.
3 poles go in a bar.
That's right.
oh, jeez. He's
would've-
Polish. It's okay.
I would have hated to be the wiring guy at the factory back in the day. It's a lot of wiring.
Yeah.
it is a lot of wiring. Yeah. And so Mason asks me to like kind of reinterpret this. And he also asked me, he's like, I want checkerboard binding, kind of like, you know, the old Rickenbackers.
Yeah, totally.
Except what's different than the Rickenbackers is the Rickenbackers were really more of like a checkerboard purfling, and purfling is not binding. It doesn't extend the whole way like binding does. It's a very shallow kind of material. And he's like, no, I want checkerboard binding. So I ended
the question
up,
is, where did you find this? Because I know
the
where you can get
checkerboard
it.
binding. Yeah, well, I actually found a source for the checkerboard binding on eBay of all places.
Oh yeah.
And the guy makes replacement binding for Rickenbacker for like vintage guitars and stuff.
Cool.
I don't know how true like vintage replacement it is, but for my purposes, I was like, okay, that's gonna be good enough.
Yeah, the original stuff is actually about half height compared to what's on this guitar that you're talking. And then they wrap the outside with a thicker or taller, I should say, solid piece. This binding, we'll chat after the podcast, and I can put you in touch with some people.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I would think the trick. I'm sorry. I would think the trick is to find a material that you can keep getting for a long time. You know, just to keep a consistency.
That's the hardest part when working with plastics, especially.
Yeah.
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 You know,
and especially like the guys on eBay, that might be a great quick fix. But if it's on eBay, I mean, you can pretty much be guaranteed it's not going to be there in 3 or 4 years from now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what would be really cool is, I don't know if you're familiar with Buck Owens' Sparklecaster that basically Tele Custom.
So
and
cool.
I love that word.
Fender used this checkerboard binding, but on the outside they put a black strip, so it gave it that kind of ropey kind of look when you looked at it from the top.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would be super cool to do on this,
That's right.
I mean, I
I'll have to
guess so.
check that out.
especially if it was champagne sparkle. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Let's get Todd a sparkle strap for his next
No,
birthday.
don't. Okay. Anyways, holy moly. Let's get back to Drew here, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you got the
So this has said that's the name I ended up calling it, which is the Spectrum 5 kind of
right. It's got an
honorary
exceptionally
guitar. So-
long top shoulder or horn, I guess. You could say.
Yes. Yeah, it does. And so, but Mason was very clear that he did want something like the original. He wanted 6 individual, I call them split coils. And he wanted those all 36 pickup combination options. And so obviously these pickups don't exist. So Tim McNally is a really good friend of mine, and I've been using him almost exclusively since 2011. So I give him a call and I explained to him, I was like, okay, I need 6 mini coils, but like in a humbucker housing, and every one of those mini coils needs its own lead, positive and negative. And also I need a wiring schematic for 36 pickup combinations. and Tim, Tim's Canadian, so he was too nice to not say, to say no, and poor guy, I feel bad. Whenever I call Tim, he's probably like, oh Lord, no. Why?
I can imagine he was no problem with the pickups themselves, but the wiring harness, that's something I would probably turn over to a wiring harness professional.
Yeah. And it took actually 3 tries to get the wiring harness right.
Wow.
Because originally what we were going to do is we were going to have the 6 slider switches, and then we're going to have a 7th switch, which was going to be a master phase switch. So at any time you could put your combination of pickups in or out of phase.
Whoa.
Awesome.
And and so we obviously by now we finally did refine the 36 pickup combinations. We did refine the master phase switch, although no one has actually requested that.
So those are just 2-way sliders on that?
Yeah, they're just on and off sliders.
Okay. Yeah.
So what's great, they're just switchcraft sliders. So what's great though is in theory, if you wanted to, you could have the bridgeable side on and the neck pickup bass side on and all the other pickups off. Mm-hmm. So you get this really full bass, but higher output driving, high top 3 strings.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Real nice.
And then the other old Tim, I was like, I don't want these to be traditional, single coil sounding pickups. So it is coils is essentially a P90. So it's technically 6 mini P90s. Cause I'm a huge P90 fan. So they are 6 mini P90s. And anytime you connect one pickup with another, you combine them, they become hum canceling as well. Pretty much it's always hum canceling, and you get this big ballsy P90 tone, but with 36 pickup combinations.
Jeez.
Cool.
And then of course there's a master volume. There's 2 other tone knobs. One is a treble contour, and the other is a bass contour. So you can roll off treble or you can roll off bass, depending on what you want.
Wow. That is one heck of a guitar, my man.
Yeah, it was a beast. And then the funny thing is Mason, by the time I was done, Mason had spent his money on his 52 Telly. and so I told him, I was like, hey Mason, your guitar's done. He's like, I don't have any money for it. Sorry, man.
Oh, geez.
So I was like, yeah. But it's all good. That's actually probably been one of my guitar models that's gotten the most attention. So again,
did you give it to him anyways, or what did he? What happened?
No. It's been a while since him and I have connected. I mean, he's just such a busy guy.
Sure. So he can still buy one.
But yeah,
go get one, Mason.
Yeah. No, I mean, if Mason wants one, I will give it to him for pennies on the dollar.
Mason wants it. Well, he gets it.
Yes.
Cool. That was a pretty early. Most people wait later in their crafting career to go like, I need to go really crazy here. You did that pretty early.
Yeah. And once you start that departure, you kind of have to commit to it. Mm-hmm. It's like you just don't have like one crazy guitar and everything else is traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like in 2011, I just made the choice. I'm like, you know what? I love classic guitars, but there are great companies out there who have been doing it longer than me, who quite honestly are probably doing it way better than me. Mm-hmm. And they've built like a strong name for themselves. And like, I have no problem referring people out to those guys.
Sure.
And so I just figured, you know what, like this is a saturated industry and the Dudzik industry is only getting like more and more traction.
Which is
so
awesome.
I just,
because we've had this discussion many times. I think my own personal point of view is that the greatest thing about that is that people aren't scared to get interesting guitars now. People aren't scared to deviate that because a guitar is a commitment. Guitar more so than pedals are, and amps are still sort of like, hey, look, don't deviate too far because that's still a chunk of change. People aren't as adventurous with that, but when it comes to the guitar, it's taken quite a while for unique designs and new ideas to really take hold. And with more attention and more builders, that just alleviates the pressure for everybody to say, well, if I buy one of these weirdo guitars, I'm not going to be able to resell it or I'm not going to like it or I'm going to look weird or whatever. And I think it's fantastic. I mean, because you're right. It's like, let the people who've been doing the ones that we all know and love, let them do it.
Yeah.
Go get one of those, but there's a ton of builders making really, really amazing guitars that are competitive, if not better priced.
Yeah.
I mean, the guitar we just talked about, you have listed at basically $2,500. That's bonkers.
Yep.
If you tried to get that from any major manufacturer, it would be considerably more than that.
Well, especially because of all the wiring.
Yeah. Well, and the
and the pickups too.
and the checkerboard and all the other hoo-ha,
It's like 6 coils that you have to build.
Yeah. Anyways, my point there is that people, don't be afraid. Get weird, man.
Yeah. And there are, like you said, there are great builders who are willing to think outside of the box now.
Yeah.
I think you guys mentioned like Novo, isn't that, was that the brand you mentioned? Yeah. I mean, like Dennis Fano is building incredible stuff over there. And what's great though, is you can buy a guitar that is outside of the box, but still looks classic.
Yeah.
It can still be aged if that's your thing and be done in a way that's convincingly old looking.
Yeah. Well, I also think that there's been a stigma in the past with it. Anything that's not sort of classic is kind of, and look, Tasco is partly to blame for this. I think we can fairly say that between Tasco and Kay and Harmony and stuff. It's like, hey, the guitars on the left side of things out there, they're not so good. You're not so great to play. I'm just saying they're kind of junky guitars. But people are like you are saying, hey, they still look amazing. And that's the first thing that we see when we if we see a guitar we like, we're like, that looks awesome. Right. Just like I mentioned, I'm like, first time I saw Mason Stoops guitar, I was like, oh, that is amazing. I love it. I might hate playing that thing. I doubt it, but I might, and it's always a surprise when you're like, you go to you get all hopped up on a particular design and then you go to play one and it's just like an utter disappointment because it's not made for you. I was like that with the SG. I wanted an SG so bad. I got an SG and I couldn't wait to get it off my shoulders.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know. But that's just, and the same with the Strat too. You know, it's like everything ain't for everybody. That's why there's so many things.
Oh yeah.
Well, totally. And, I mean, I think it's important for people to realize that even some of the older like Ks or Supros and those kind of things, I mean, they might not play as well as a classic, but there are still really, really great elements in those guitars. Like someone mentioned earlier, the speed bump pickups. Those are great pickups. Also, like the Kleenex pickups, those things are freaking awesome. So like there are really good things.
Describe the Kleenex pickups really quick for all the listeners who just went with the what?
Kleenex box. It looks like a Kleenex box.
So exactly. It looks like a Kleenex box, except it's constructed out of this like semi-transparent plastic. You can find them in a lot of K guitars. I think I mean, K was made by, there's several companies that participated with K in their production, but basically Chicago brands. There's a bunch of Chicago guitar companies back in the 60s and stuff. So, but yeah, but those Kleenex pickups are phenomenal. And you're right. I mean, just like a Novo, or not to put myself on par with Dennis Fano because he is next level. But like my stuff, Dennis's stuff, it's non-traditional, but you may pick it up. You may love it. You may not love it, and that's fine. But I think like we are at a point in guitar building history in general where like there are enough great builders out there doing non-traditional stuff that it's a good time to experiment.
Heck yes. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, dude, so much for sharing your big guitar story. It always amazes me to hear when people say, "Yeah, I didn't know how to do any of this, and I just did it," and they're awesome. Anyways,
That's awesome,
everybody go out and check out these here guitars. And you're building out of where right now?
I'm in Eastern Washington State in an area called the Tri-Cities in Richland, Washington. So, and I just want to say too, like, lest people think I'm trying to ride on the coattails of Mason Stoops. Like, I am just super appreciative of him. And I am very aware that I owe a lot to Mason. So, super good guy.
I never heard of him.
That's cool that you mentioned that, but I mean, honestly, dude, your guitar line's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And while that may have given you the first bump, you are clearly holding your own out there. So,
well, thanks. I appreciate that, man.
All credit due to where should be laid. And go listen to Mason Stoops. He's pretty dang good. So anyways, let's see here. Gentlemen.
Well, guys, it's time for
Would You Rather?
That was awful. Let me bless you with the right tone. Would you rather?
Let me bless you with my tone.
All right, man. We are going to call up Mr. Walsh here, and we're going to get a guitar, and we're going to talk about finish. Now, would you rather A, have a matching color headstock, or would you rather have the natural wood headstock?
Okay, we need one factor in here.
Let's do it.
What's the
Factor.
factor?
Is it a dark wood fingerboard or is it a maple fingerboard?
Ooh. Let's go maple just to simplify it. Yeah. Let's go.
No, don't go maple because that's gonna get the dark wood fingerboard. Whatever kind
So
of
I was gonna say
rosewood, whatever.
Ebony.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because if it's maple, I'd straight up always say no.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going
Ooh,
dark
that's tough.
wood.
Okay.
Okay. And then the shaft wood is that figured wood or is that just kind of plain? Are we saying maple, just plain maple?
Let's just say plain maple,
Plain maple.
for this.
Just
yes.
front of it, just front of headstock.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go to Tony first. Tony, what are you going with?
Well, I'm a traditionalist. So if it's a custom color body, I'm going with the custom color headstock. I just got to do it.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay, good.
That's what I'm saying.
Jared.
Well, the first thing I would do is ask Mr. Walsh here. I'd be like, what do you think I would do? What do you think I should do here?
Oh, how much more does it
But if he said, listen, no, you have to make this decision, Jared. You're making the decision. I would,
What do you like to eat in this restaurant?
especially if it were especially if it were sparkle. If it had a sparkle finish on it, I think I'd definitely go for the sparkle headstock.
You do like your sparkles, don't you?
I love it.
Yeah, he's drooling over the Barra, the copper flake.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah.
Pretty sweet, man.
I had a Jeep that color once.
Oh. Yeah. All right, Drew, what are you doing?
Oh man, yeah, I'd probably go with matching headstock. I love matching headstocks, but that said, though, like if you have a really nice like roasted maple, there's something about roasted maple natural on a headstock that's also just really gorgeous.
Yeah. I can
Why
see
do I
that
think
too.
of coffee when people say that?
Because it sounds delicious.
Because
It
Folgers.
does.
Yeah. I'm going with painted headstock too.
Nobody asked you.
I'm telling you.
No one picked the El
Yeah.
Natural.
And here's so I'm not I don't have a spark like I'm building one right now that's going to be black, and I want the headstock black, which
Okay.
and it's on a telly too, a telly neck. So there's not a lot of room to work with for putting all the stuff on there.
Are you going to have a logo, and will the logo
Yes.
be sparkle?
The logo is going to be gold,
Oh,
but
might
just
be
the
sparkle.
standard gold. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Drew, where can people find you?
Yeah, well, you can check me out on walshguitars.com,
Okay.
or you can check me on Instagram. My handle is just Walsh Guitars,
Awesome.
and I'm also on Facebook.
Excellent.
So I'm most often I chat with people on Instagram or just via email, which you can reach me through the website. Am I going for it?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I have a deal going on right now that I'm doing a spring batch. I got 17 guitars in the spring batch. Some of them are claimed, some of them are not. And I'm willing to give people 10% off any of the unclaimed guitars in the spring batch if you mention the Guitar Knob podcast.
Wow.
And I'll be starting a fall batch sometime in the fall. And if you want to custom order a guitar, or if you want to claim another guitar within the fall batch, again, just mention the Guitar Knob podcast and I'll give 10% off any of those guitars as well.
Awesome.
That is
Outstanding.
so cool.
10% is a lot.
I gotta sell some stuff, man. I gotta give me one of them deals.
Yeah, with the 6 pickups.
Jeez,
So if you mention the guitar knobs twice, do you get 20% off?
hey, people, just really quick, like this is not a lightweight thing. It's one thing to say it's 10% off of your sandwich. It's another thing to say it's 10% off of a custom made, hand built guitar. That's a big deal. And I am so appreciative of you doing that for our audience, man. That is super cool.
Yeah.
Totally.
So go get those things, man. Everybody out there, go get those. Come on now. All right.
Tell them the knob sent
With
you.
the copper on it.
Tony,
Yes.
do it to it, bro.
You can always visit pickguardian.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and all that other fun stuff.
What
but
can you do for people?
I can make you a custom pickguard. So whether you
And
want
various other plastic pieces.
and various other I do all kinds of plastic.
Truss rod covers.
I love me some plastic. All truss rod covers except for Rickenbacker trademarks.
Okay.
But anyhow, anything custom, different pickup configurations, different materials. Go to the site, take a look around. If there's something that you want but don't see, drop me a line, and I will do my best to make it happen.
Cool.
Pickguardian.com.
Right on. All right, Jared.
Well, I build boutique pickups, new and vintage style, and I've gotten kind of crazy with the tortoiseshell, and been kind of sticking anything under that. Be sure to go to the Instagram, Brandon Wound Pickups, to see what I've been doing. We also do rewinds at a low cost with a fast turnaround. You can find me at brandonwoundpickups.com, Instagram, and I'm on Facebook.
All that said is that's all great. You make some outstanding sounding pickups.
Thank you.
Like legit. I have a set of real wide range, not wide range like all the kids are
Reissue
getting out of the
stuff.
stores these days. This is the good stuff.
Yeah.
I got a
Well,
wide
fair
range and a telly bridge that I'm putting in my jazz smasher. Tony.
Yes, there is another group of people that we would like to thank. We thank them on a every podcast basis. Those would be our executive producers, people who help support and make life a little bit easier for all of us.
We love you.
We love you so much. If you go to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs, you can find out how you too can become an executive producer if you so choose. But there are also other levels that you can participate in and get some really cool stuff in exchange. So,
Legit.
we would like to thank our executive producers who include Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, David Wolfson, Matt Brammer, Carlos Mancha, Pete Marshall, Derek Fitzer, Robin Smith, John Daly, Oliver Gonzalez, Sean S. Chris Kearney, John Anglin, Robert Marfleet, Darren Gregory, Gary Goodman, Zach J. Wright, and Doug Christ. Thank you so much. And you can go to patreon.com and find out how you can be an executive producer and what happens.
They got their name right on the thing.
That's right, Jared.
Yep. We got some good stuff for you guys out there. So we truly appreciate your help. It helps so much to keep our show going. There is lots of things that we have to account for here, and thank you. All right, Drew, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and it was a ton of fun talking to you. You have some super exciting guitars. People, please go out, take a look at him, follow him on Instagram, check out his website, and go get that 10% off. Get yourself a brand new, handmade, beautiful guitar.
Subscribe!
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I was down in Tejas. I'm not going to be able to do this. Damn it. Okay. The only time you actually drink is when you have to be on point. Excellent.
Well,
Or when you're at
When
your
I'm
traffic
operating
controlling
heavy
job.
equipment.
Yeah.
nothing like a challenge. Huh?
We don't want to have to send our goons after him, you know? Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.